The deadline is February 14th. The Raiders have to make a decision on what's going to happen with Derek Carr. Derek Carr has a contract that kicks in an extension that will be worth $40 million guaranteed if he's still under contract to the Raiders after February 14th. So he is probably going to get cut. The background is they yanked him from the lineup, and they've indicated at the end of the Raiders season, we're going to play Jared Stidham, and we just want to see what he's got to offer. Derek Carr walked away from the Raiders. Derek Carr's agent went to the Raiders and said, we would like the opportunity, if you're going to trade us, for us to meet with potential teams that Derek would be interested in going to. The Raiders said no. So they sat and they sat and they sat, and the Raiders have wound up wasting about 6 weeks of time. And then finally, Carr went back to the Raiders and said, would you rethink this? And they said no. Said no a second time. Derek Carr said, you will not allow us to talk. I will invoke the no trade clause in my contract, and I will block any deal you try to make with anybody. I won't accept it. And I'm going to leave as a free agent on February 14th, and you'll get no compensation. So last Friday at midnight, the Raiders changed their mind and said, you have an opportunity. He went and spent 2 days with the New Orleans Saints, and it looked like that's where he was going to wind up, because the Saints and the Raiders had agreed upon draft pick compensation to make a Carr trade go if Carr could come to agreement on a restructured contract. New Orleans cannot pay him $40 million a year. They have enormous cap problems, but evidently they were working on different dollar figures and how to do it to make it work with their salary cap problem. And then yesterday, he decided, I'm not going to New Orleans. And he informed the Raiders the clock has run out. There's no time for me to go somewhere and meet somebody else, be it the Washington Commanders or the Carolina Panthers, because you wasted 5 weeks.
Yeah.
So as we sit here on our bonus podcast on Monday, not going to be traded. Raiders cannot afford a $40 million contract. He's probably going to get released either late Tuesday night or Wednesday morning. Allows him to go on the open market. Now, he won't have a $40 million contract, but he'll have the chance to handpick where to go. And to go, to me, makes sense, is probably Carolina Frank Reich, with an owner who's got cap space and is not afraid to spend. And they have no quarterbacks in Carolina now at all. So I would think maybe that's the landing spot. The financial structure is obviously going to be different. It's not going to be a $40 million contract. But why would the Raiders just mishandle this thing? Except that Mark Davis is a bozo and doesn't know what the hell he's doing with the franchise. End of opinion, period, exclamation point, but I know I'm right. Your response.
Oh, I mean, yeah, the Raiders have just been so much trouble. I mean, trying to get organized. I wish Al Davis was back. I mean, because he kind of had a system. He could figure it out. I hope Carr lands on his feet. He's a good guy. I just like him as an individual and as a player. But it's just typical of the Raiders sort of screwing themselves. It's funny, too, that we were talking last week about the New Orleans Saints and draft picks because they were coming from Denver, with the Sean Payton deal. They had a little bit of, some resources, some assets to work. But, yeah, I'm sure it probably came down to money for Carr. If they can't pay him what he wants, then there's no point.
So that's where we are. We'll find out. We're going to get a much better read on this whole storyline, I think, by late Tuesday or Wednesday morning at the latest. And Derek Carr will go on the open market. That being said, his career record is 69-80. That's not real impressive. But you have to know the inner workings of the mess that the Raiders organization is. And his one-loss record, I think, is a direct reflection and relationship to just what a disaster the organization is. So everything that happened around him, blown draft picks, John Gruden, injuries, wasted money, failing number one picks, it all kind of fell at his front door, and that's why he's 69-80 as a starter in the league. But he is a good guy, and he'll be playing somewhere else next season. On we go. Next question.
All right, so we got a couple more topics here. I mean, what's going on with the new head coach opportunities with the Cardinals and the Colts?
2 jobs are left. The rumor out of Indianapolis is that they're going to move on Shane Steichen, offensive coordinator, Philadelphia Eagles. Had a big role in the development, obviously, with Sirianni of Jalen Hurts. Steichen used to be here. He was a quarterback coach with the Chargers. and has fast tracked like Sirianni has fast tracked. Steichen might well be the guy. Indianapolis over the Super Bowl weekend told a wide variety of the guys that they interviewed. They interviewed 15 different people. Told virtually all of them, including Jeff Saturday, we're going a different direction. So I think Steichen might well be the guy. Arizona has waited to the end of the Super Bowl. They have asked for permission to interview Jonathan Gannon, the defensive coordinator in Philadelphia. In fact, I'm led to believe that interview started on Monday, is going to continue into Tuesday. There seems to be a sentiment that maybe he is going to be the guy at a very late date to become the head coach of the Arizona Cardinals. They've been in and out of the mix. A number of the guys that they were interested in, they could not get. When Dan Quinn pulled out and said, I'm staying in Dallas with the Cowboys to be defensive coordinator, that hurt them. When DeMeco Ryans did not accept the job there and wound up going to the Houston Texans. So they had to backtrack, but evidently Gannon is probably the lead guy there. The other thing to keep an eye on, I don't have all the names right in front of me right now, will be there are a wide variety of offensive coordinator candidates available who I think are going to move. And I keep hearing through my contacts that Eric Bieniemy is going to leave Kansas City. You can't go from offensive coordinator here to offensive coordinator there, but you can go from offensive coordinator Kansas City to offensive coordinator play caller with another team, because he didn't call the plays. They could also name him assistant head coach as a way to be a move up. You can't make lateral moves in the NFL. So Bieniemy might be changing addresses pretty quickly, which that's a big storyline in Kansas City. If they lose him, just like San Francisco's losing both of their coordinators. So 49ers got some holes that they're going to have to fill now. So scramble for assistant coaches is about to begin, and we've got the 2 head coaching jobs still to be filled.
Yeah, it's interesting with Bieniemy because we've talked a lot about him as another bright light. And I remember in the post-game TV show last night, Mike Vick was talking about Bieniemy and saying he deserves his shot. So hopefully he gets into the mix. But the defensive coordinator with the Eagles, Gannon, is any relation to Rich Gannon?
No, Jonathan Gannon. No, different guy.
Okay.
But what he's done in 2 years in Philadelphia to build that beast of a defense has impressed an awful lot of people. Got one other name here that we want to talk about that has not really been discussed very often, and that's the guy in Green Bay.
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers. I mean, it's always weird where this guy is going to end up. And how old is he, by the way?
38.
38. So he could probably play a couple more seasons. He's still got those feats of strength. The question is who wants him, right?
Well, he can still play, so there will be people out there that might want him. Now, can anybody take on a $40 million, $42 million salary cap contract? I don't know. That's a big issue. What bothers me, and he's always been outspoken, he's always been in grudge mode, he's always been about, I've been disrespected and all that, or I disagree with the front office, that that's his spirit. That's his DNA. But I look at him now and I look at Brett Favre reincarnated, how it ended with Brett Favre in Green Bay. Love me not, might retire, trade me. And, and I remember Brett Favre, New York Jets, Brett Favre, Minnesota Vikings. That wasn't very impressive. What a lousy way to go out.
Yeah.
So why would you want to leave Green Bay where the next step for him would be Hall of Fame, Packer Hall of Fame at Lambeau Field, and maybe NFL Hall of Fame? Why would you leave to go somewhere else with a bad team? That's the only thing that just it doesn't jive with how you want to finish your career. Remains to be seen. He has indicated this week, John, that he was going to turn the lights out and he was going to go into isolation and he was going to decide, love me not. Do I love Green Bay or do I want to go play somewhere else? Remains to be seen. I have a hard time thinking he would ever put somebody else's colors on, but some guys do it differently, and he's really cut from a different cloth.
Yeah, he is. And he said he was going to go to a dark place, to do his reflection. If you were to paint a picture and say, where would you like him to finish his career? It'd be interesting if he actually finished his career in San Francisco, given he's a Northern California guy. Obviously, they don't need him, so he could land anywhere else, but it might be like Phillip Rivers and the Colts, just like a 1-year thing, and probably would hang it up. But it's just a soap opera with that guy, both on the field and off the field.
And San Francisco does not have a quarterback who's healthy. They're all coming off surgery. In San Francisco, if they had a workout, they'd have no quarterbacks to snap the ball to if we were still working out, getting ready for another game. I think it's a long shot that he'd go to San Francisco. That's a salary cap issue on top of everything else. So interesting to see, but we got plenty of weeks now that the Super Bowl is retired, because now you're going to start putting on your player personnel hat, and we'll start talking about player moves and who fits where and what's going to happen in free agency. And by the way, we got the NFL draft still to come too. Okay.